Okay, welcome back to our spiritual boot camp. This is spiritual boot camp part 5. Wow, and this was only supposed to be one lesson. You know, but hallelujah. We are in spiritual boot camp number 5, and it's been quite a boot camp actually. All right, remember the goal of this boot camp, this spiritual boot camp, is to make warriors, not worriers. Amen.
Amen.
Hallelujah. We want to be warriors. They sound the same. They even spell similar, but you know, quite a big difference, right?
Yes.
All right. So seeing that it's been such a long time since we've started this series, much longer than anticipated, I figured that it's about time that we do a boot camp recap.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, so we're going to do a little boot camp recap. All right, so we was going through Ephesians 6, and one of the first things that we encountered that we should know our enemy, right?
Yes.
You should know your enemy. You should know who your enemies are, first and foremost. We talked about, principalities. And we discussed how principalities, how the word essentially spoke to things that was first, that was chief, and we spoke about how these things speaks to giants from your youth. It speaks to the things that first caused you to stray from the will of the Most High. And these are principalities in your life, and oftentimes, they become giants in our lives because they've been with us for so long, and again, I pray that you look back in retrospect and that you discovered what principalities have been working in your lives, up to this point. What giants have been working in your lives from up to this point, and have you slayed them? Now, in order to slay these principalities, we need a rock. And we just so happen to have one.
Yes.
Yahshua, our Messiah, right?
That's right.
These principalities must be slain with a rock. These giants, must be slain with the rock. And another word for these principalities, you could call them bad habits. Because it's these bad habits that first cause us to stray, and they become like strongholds in our lives. Amen. They're just like bad habits are hard to break, principalities are hard to overcome. Amen. But if you got a smooth rock, if you got a rock that you can slang at it, then you can overcome it. And we just so happen to have the best rock.
Yes. Hallelujah.
All right. We also spoke about powers. And we spoke about powers, and essentially that word powers was exousia, and it spoke to our freedom to choose. See, and this is another one of our enemies, and this is huge. This is a huge enemy. Just like those bad habits, those principalities, are huge in our lives. These are the things that causes us to constantly stray from the will of the Most High. Amen. Also powers, our freedom to choose, our freedom to choose to do right or wrong. This is one of our greatest enemies, one of our greatest foes. Yes, when you look at it on the surface, it's a good thing. We had the freedom to choose. But, how much better would it be if we, kind of had to do right?
That's right.
Then we'll never do wrong, we'll never get in trouble. Amen?
Amen.
But it doesn't work that way. We've been given free will. We have the power to choose. We have freedom of choice. Now you can choose to do right or you can choose to do wrong. This free will, is what gets us in trouble a lot of times. It's our freedom to choose. So, and I know these are a little different than what you've heard other teachings on principalities and powers to be, but this is the essence of what the words mean themselves. And what better way to gain understanding of what the author was talking about than to investigate the term and terminology in which he used. Amen.
Amen.
So you know, again, these principalities can speak to bad habits. These powers speak to our freedom to choose, because there's, you know, there's no one that's making you, you know, do right. You always had a choice to do right or wrong. Amen.
Amen.
You know, another one of our enemies was some of our enemies was the rulers of darkness of this world, and we spoke about how it spoke to ultimately, you know, there's many of them, the demonic forces, and you know, in Abaddon, you know, which we eventually be loosed out of the abyss, as well as the false prophet, you know, the rulers of the darkness of this world, and you know, all those in which they're influencing now that's in rule in this world. You know, we see about all the rulers talking about war, and and we hear about war and rumors of war, right? And you know, yeah, so you know, there's rulers of darkness that's influencing these rulers, you know, and influencing all the evil that's going on in our world today. Amen.
Amen.
You know, so we spoke about them, and also spiritual wickedness in high places. And we spoke about the spiritual wickedness in high places, you know, being governed by Hasatan or Satan, you know, and his demonic forces, you know, in which he utilized to work demise in our lives. You know, speaking of Satan, you know, I want to pose, you know, give you something to chew on. You know, what does it mean, Satan, mean that Satan is the prince of the power of the air? You know, do you ever think about that? About Satan being the prince of the power of the air? You know, he rules over the airwaves. You know, we have many things that's going through the airwaves now today. Amen. You know, many things that's going through the airwaves that actually combat against us. We're going to talk about that some more in a bit, you know, but I just wanted to put that on your mind. Just put it on the shelf for now. We'll take it down later. All right. Then we have Ephesians 6:10, which taught us to put on the full armor of Elohim. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. You know, so this is a spiritual boot camp. This is to get you into the army of Elohim, you know, to become warriors in the army of Elohim. But you must know and understand that we fight not against flesh and blood. We're the only army in existence, you know, that actually advances on our knees. Amen. Amen. We're the ones that fight on our knees. We fight through prayer, hallelujah, and through spiritual weaponry. Amen. You know, so, you know, it's not, you know, the type of warfare that you're used to watching on TV, so to speak. Amen. Amen. You know, now, in putting on the whole armor of Elohim, we learned about each piece of the armor, you know, and how it related, you know, to us. You know, we spoke of the loins of the mind being girded about with truth. We learned that the loins, you know, actually spoke to the loins of the mind, scripturally speaking, and that's what we have to have girded about with truth. We not only have to have truth wrapped around our minds, but it must be fastened as well, right? You know, because, you know, you can have the truth wrapped around your mind, but then it can come loose and slide to the side. Amen. You know, so we have to make sure it's fastened. We talked about the breastplate of righteousness, you know, and we spoke about what righteousness truly was, and how righteousness was the commands, words, and sayings of the Most High. You know, that is our righteousness, you know, and we spoke about having our feet shod with the gospel of peace, you know, and how everything we do, you know, we walk in peace, you know, and we do it peaceably. You know, we spoke about the shield of faith and what true faith was. And if you recall, the word was pistis in the Greek, number 4102, and it spoke to persuasion. You know, persuasion of religious truth, persuasion of this word of Elohim in our lives. And we spoke about how faith persuades us, you know, to do rightly. You know, but because of those powers that exist, because of that exousia, that freedom to choose, you can choose to adhere to the persuasion of religious truth, adhere to the persuasion of the word, or you can choose not to. You know, and if you choose not to, then faith without works are dead. But if you choose to do so, then the faith goes on living, and the just shall live by faith, or persuasion. So we spoke about the helmet of salvation, whereas we had a security, that even if we took a deadly blow in the physical, that we have an incorruptible body waiting on us, in which Yah can just raise us back up and renew us, renew our strength and renew our lives for the hereafter. Amen. So the worst that the enemy can do is kill us, but the one we serve can give us life.
Hallelujah.
Even life everlasting. Amen.
Amen.
And that's our helmet of salvation. We spoke about our weapons, the sword of the Ruach, which was the word of Elohim. Amen. So we learned about that word of Elohim. We learned that it can also, in addition to being a sword, it can also, it's also spoken in scripture as being a fire. So we have some fire to fight with. It was spoken of as being a hammer. So, the word of Elohim, we can use it as a sword, we can use it as fire, and we can use it even as a hammer. Amen. So that's our weaponry. And also, in all things that we do, we're to pray without ceasing. Amen. Pray without ceasing and supplication within the Ruach, right? And we spoke about that, the different types of prayer, as well as supplication in the Ruach. So this is, a little recap of our spiritual boot camp thus far. Amen.
Amen.
Now, today we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about who our enemies are. We're going to talk about, we spoke about the armor that we're to have on. We talked about our weaponry, so, only thing's missing now is the battlefield. So we're going to talk about the battlefield, the spiritual battlefield today. Amen. Because, yes, now that we know who the enemy are, now that we have on the full armor of Elohim. Amen. And so now, we're ready to fight, but you have to know where the battle is. If you don't know where the battle is, you can be all geared up and everything, but if you don't know where the battle is, you're still lost, right? You're not going to be a very effective soldier if you can't find your way to the battlefield. Amen. All right, so where is the spiritual battlefield? And I want you to know that the spiritual battlefield is within our minds. Did you notice that all our enemies are invisible? And have a great influence upon our minds. The principalities of bad habits. There's nothing that makes us do a bad habit. I shouldn't say that, but whatever it is that causes us to keep repeating a bad habit is invisible. Amen. The powers, our freedom to choose. Is also invisible, right? It's also within us. It's something within us that causes us to do bad habits. It's something within us that causes us to choose wrongly. Amen. To use our free choice, our power to choose wrongly. The rulers of the darkness of this world, they are invisible. On the most part. Yes, we see physical men, but we know that our fight aren't with them. Amen. And oftentimes, we as believers, we have enemies that come up against us, in the flesh, but we know that our fight isn't with them. Amen. Sometimes it's even from within our own ranks. Sometimes it's even our fellow soldiers that we get into it with, but we know that our battle is not with flesh and blood. Amen. We're not to fight them. We're to fight the unclean spirits. We're to fight the principalities, the powers, the rulers of the darkness, and the spiritual wickedness in high places. Amen. Also that spiritual wickedness in high places. There's a lot of things going on in the airwaves. As I mentioned before, that we have to combat. And that's one of the roughest ones to get past. That's the top dog of the enemies, if you would. So I want you to know that the battlefield is within us. It's within us, y'all. See, you don't have to go far to get to the battle, because the battle is within us. It's truly, like good versus evil going on within us. This is where the battle is. This is where the battlefield is. You know, you got to understand this. Otherwise, you're gonna find yourself being defeated. You know, because so many people are out looking for the battle, and they're looking, where can we fight? You know, I'm a soldier in the army of Elohim, and they want to get on the battlefield, and and they think they fighting on Facebook, and they fighting on the internet, and and they fighting in the coffee shops and all this. The battle is within you first and foremost. That's the battlefield. Let's take a look at some scripture concerning this. We're going to take a look at Romans chapter 8. Let me have my first reader read Romans 8, 1 through 10, please.
There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Messiah Yahushua, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Ruach. For the law of the Ruach of life in Messiah Yeshua hath made me free from the law of sin and death. For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, Elohim sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin, condemned sin in the flesh, that the righteousness of the law might be fulfilled in us, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Ruach. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the Ruach, the things of the Ruach. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Because the carnal mind is enmity against Elohim, for it is not subject to the law of Elohim, neither indeed can it be. So then, they that are in the flesh cannot please Elohim. But ye are not in the flesh, but in the Ruach. If so be that the Ruach of Elohim dwell in you. Now if any man hath not the Ruach of Messiah, he is none of his. And if Messiah be in you, the body is dead because of sin, but the Ruach is life because of righteousness.
Hallelujah. So here it is. We see in Romans 8:1, it tells us, those of us who are in Mashiach Yahushua walk not after the flesh. Amen. We walk not after the flesh, but after the Ruach. See, you have to understand that there's a, when you're truly fathered from above, i.e. born again, there's a spirit man and there's a flesh man. Amen. We walk not after the flesh. We don't walk after the flesh. We don't walk after men. We don't walk after men. Our Messiah came so we would not have to walk after men. We don't walk after flesh, but we walk after the Ruach. It says the law of the Ruach of life in Mashiach Yahushua have made me free from the law of sin and death. For what the law could not do, and that it was weak through the flesh. See, the law, when it came through Moshe, it was made weak through the flesh, because the flesh that was entrusted with it added all kind of stuff to it, and made it burdensome, and so it weakened it, but because, the people were still compelled to follow it, that's what led to the death. Okay? Now, it tells us that, in verse 4 it says that the righteousness of the Torah or the law might be fulfilled in us. See, we are to be the fulfillment of the law, even as Yahshua was the fulfillment of the law. This word fulfilled here is pleiru, number 4137 in the Greek, and it means to cram. This is the same word that's used when the Messiah said, "Think not that I've come to destroy the law and the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill," which again, this word was pleiru, this very same word, number 4137 in your Strong's, meaning to cram. He didn't come to destroy it, but he came to cram it up. He came to replete it. He came to fill up the empty spaces that was in it, so that it will be fully ready for use, so that it would not only teach you and provide you with a life in the here and now, but also one in the hereafter. Amen. Okay, so the righteousness of the law should be fulfilled in us that are in Mashiach, that's in Yahushua. Because we're not to walk after the flesh, not after the commandments of men, but after the Ruach, which is the word of Elohim. For it says, for they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh. See, those are who are in the flesh, they walk after the flesh. You know, but they that are after the Ruach, the spirit, the things of the Ruach. So if we are spiritual beings, then we are to walk after the things that are in the spirit. Just like we learned our weapon is this the sword of the spirit, which is the word of Elohim. Amen?
Amen.
You know, so that's the things that we are to walk after, even that spiritual word of Elohim, you know, that was given, you know, to us, you know, outside of the things that man had inputted. You know, for to be carnally minded is death. And this is what you have to understand. You know, to be carnally minded or fleshly minded is death. You know, when your mind is concerned with the things of the flesh, you know, this is what's going to lead you to death. You know, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. To be spiritually minded speaks to be in the will of the Most High at all times. That should be your goal. Your goal should be to be in the will of the Most High at all times. Your goal should be to not walk outside of His will. Amen?
Amen.
You know, now it tells us to be carnally minded is death, but it also tells us why. It says, because in verse 7, because the carnal mind is enmity against Elohim. See, this is our enemy right here. It's even within us. The carnal mind is enmity against Elohim. For it is not subject to the law of Elohim, neither indeed can be. You know, so it tells us in verse 8, so then they that are in the flesh cannot please Elohim. You know, so if you're operating in your flesh, you're not going to be able to please Elohim. Right. You're gonna lose this battle. You know, so we need strong soldiers in the army of Elohim that's not going to walk after the flesh. That's not going to walk in their flesh, but it's going to walk in the spirit. Amen?
Amen.
You know, verse 9 tells us, but ye are not in the flesh, but in the Ruach. See, if we're truly in Yahushua HaMashiach, you know, then we're not in the flesh, we're in the Ruach. You know, and if the Ruach dwelleth in us, you know, then we're Yahshua's.
Yeah.
You know, it says in verse 10, if the Mashiach be in you, the body is dead because of sin. This flesh body is going to die. It's going to die. There's no way around it. It's going to die. Yeah. So, you know, you might as well let it go now. You know, the Messiah say if you seek to save your life, you'll lose it. But if you lose it for His name's sake, you'll save it. Amen? Amen. You know, it tells us that the body is dead because of sin, but the Ruach is life because of righteousness. Now remember what righteousness was. Righteousness was the commands, words, and sayings of the Most High. See, this is what righteousness is. This is what we want to walk in. This is what we want to walk after. The commandments, words, and sayings of the Most High. Now that's not to say the commandments, words, and sayings of men, but of the Most High. See, because the commandments, words, and sayings of men sometimes contradict the commandments, words, and sayings of the Most High. You know, just like the law of men, the law of flesh tells you, okay, it's okay for two men or two women to get married. See, but the law of Elohim, the law of Elohim says that that's no go. It says that that's even an abomination. Yeah. There's no stronger word of detest that's in the scriptures than an abomination. That's right. You know, so we can see how if we walk after the flesh, you know, we'll end up dead. You know, because we're going to go against the will of Elohim. You know, so we got to get out of being carnally minded and have to become spiritually minded, that we might have life and peace. Amen? Amen. You know, now, the mind is a battlefield, and you must win that battle every day. Yes. See, this is why you see passages such as, you know, I die daily, or mortify your members daily, or present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto Elohim, which is your reasonable service. That's just reasonable. You know, we're not even talking about no brownie points. That's just what's reasonable. Amen. You know, we just being reasonable here. You know, we're not even talking about the extra credit. Amen. Amen. You know, let me have my next reader read James 4, 1 through 10, please.
From whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not hence, even of your lust that war in your members? Ye lust and have not, ye kill and desire to have, and cannot obtain. Ye fight and war, yet ye have not, because ye ask not. Ye ask, and ye receive not, because ye ask amiss, that ye may consume it upon your lusts. Ye adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not that the friendship of the world is enmity with Elohim? Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of Elohim. Do you think that the scripture saith in vain, the wrath that dwelleth in us lusteth to envy? But he giveth more grace. Wherefore he saith, Elohim resisteth the proud, but giveth grace unto the humble. Submit yourselves therefore to Elohim, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw nigh to Elohim, and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded. Be afflicted and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning, and your joy to heaviness. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Adonai, and he shall lift you up.
All right, y'all ready to get into this a little bit? The enemy and you may try to rise up on this part. Just I'm just giving you a little heads up. Keep them in check. Now it tells us in verse 1. It says, "From whence coming wars and fightings among you?" Okay, this is how the battles get started, y'all. Can you see that? From whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not hence even of your lust that war in your members? See, like I say, the battlefield is within us.
Yes.
And oftentimes the battles get started, from the lust that are in our members, the battles that we fight within ourselves, as well as the battles that extend to those that are around us. Amen.
Amen.
It begins from even our own lust. That war in our members. See, this is what we have to overcome. We're even told in verse 2, it says, "Ye lust, you want, and have not. Ye kill and desire to have, and cannot obtain. Ye fight and war, yet ye have not, because ye ask not." And you may say, "But I'm asking. That's not me." Yeah, but he's not done either. Verse 3 says, "Ye ask and receive not, because ye ask amiss."
Yeah.
See, there's a right way to ask, and there's a wrong way to ask. Amen? Well, how can we ask amiss? It says, "Because ye ask amiss, that ye may consume it upon your lust." See, Yah is not going to answer your prayers so that you can have your lust satisfied. When they go outside of his will. Now, if they're within his will, then that's a different story. But when they venture outside of his will, then he's not going to grant that.
Right.
He goes on to say, call them adulterers and adulteresses. See, they clearly sinners. Why? Because he goes on to say, "Know ye that the friendship of the world is enmity with Elohim?"
Yes.
Now watch out now. See, there's a lot of people that want to be friends with the world. It's a lot of people that don't want to let go of the world. It's a lot of people that want to try to fit in the world and fit in Yah. Well, I'm telling you, it's not possible. You have to choose. It's one or the other. You can't have both. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have one foot in the kingdom and the other foot in the world. That's not how it works. Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of Elohim. It sounds like war to me.
Yep.
Do you think that the scripture saith in vain, "The ruach that dwelleth in us lusteth to envy"? See, the ruach that's in us, the flesh, flesh spirit, the flesh that's in us, it wants to do one thing, but the spirit of Elohim that's in us want to do another. When one begin to win that battle, the other one's going to get jealous. And that's when the battle begins. So we're told in verse 7 to submit yourselves therefore to Elohim. See, if we just, even as Paul was saying in Romans 8, if we just walk after the Spirit, if we walk after the word of Elohim, if we do like our Messiah and come in the volume of the book, if we submit ourselves therefore to Elohim, will likewise resist the devil, and guess what? He will flee from you.
Hallelujah.
You know, that's huge. That's huge. That's teaching us how to get the devil up off of us.
Yes.
See, but you have to submit yourselves, therefore, to Elohim. You know, and some folks, you know, they may think that they have submitted themselves to Elohim, but if you haven't submitted yourselves to His Word, then you haven't submitted yourself to Him. Because in the beginning was the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. Amen.
Amen.
You know, now verse 8 taught us, it says, draw nigh to Elohim, and He will draw nigh to you. How many of you want to be a little closer to Yah?
Yes.
You want to be a little closer to the Most High?
Yes.
Well, you have to draw nigh to Him. You know, you have to cleanse your hands. You know, that means you have to stop sinning. You have to stop doing the works of the flesh and start, you know, doing the works of Elohim. Amen?
Amen.
You have to purify your hearts. You know, you can't have half of your mind trying to satisfy the world and the other half trying to satisfy Yah. That's being double-minded. You know, and we know a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Amen?
Amen.
You know, now, this is the good part. Be afflicted. Watch out now. I know who want to be afflicted. Yeah, but this is what it costs. You know, I know you heard it was free, but, you know, there is a cost. Be afflicted and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning, your joy to heaviness. Anybody willing to do that? Humble yourselves in the sight of the Adonai.
Yes.
That means stop doing what you want to do. Stop doing what the world wants you to do. And start doing what Yah wants you to do.
Yes. Yes.
And He'll lift you up. You know, Titus 1:15 through 18 says, this is a faithful saying and worthy of all acceptation, that Mashiach Yahushua came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am chief. Howbeit for this cause I obtained mercy. What cause? That in me first Yahushua, Mashiach might show forth all long suffering. Whoa. Do we have to suffer if we're going to follow Yah?
Yes.
That in me first Yahushua Mashiach might show forth all suffering as a pattern. See, this is the pattern. What's the pattern? Yeah, you got it. Long suffering. Suffering is the pattern.
Yes.
Anybody been suffering because of Yah's word lately?
Yes.
Don't be lying now. You know, not suffering because of your ill doing, but because of Yah, what you're doing for Yah. You know, for a pattern to them which should hereafter believe on Him to life everlasting. If you're going to believe on Him to life everlasting, then there's a pattern that should follow in your life. And that pattern includes suffering. Can you see that?
Yes.
You know, verse 17, now unto the King eternal, immortal, invisible, the only wise Elohim, be honor and glory forever and ever. Amen. And then it goes on to say, this charge I commit unto thee. So I'm going to say it right along with it. This charge I commit unto thee, each and every one of you. Son Timothy, according to the prophecies which went before on thee, that thou by them mightest war a good warfare. See, we done went through this spiritual boot camp. You done learned how to be soldiers in the army of Elohim. You done learned who your enemy is. You done learned how to put your armor on. You done learned what your weapons are. Now you're learning where the battlefield is. You know, why? That thou by them mightest war a good warfare. You know, let's go to 2 Timothy 2:1 through 4. It goes on to say, it says, thou therefore, my son, be strong in the grace that is in the Mashiach Yahushua. You know, and if we're going to be good soldiers, we're going to have to be strong in the grace that is in Messiah Yahushua. And the things that thou hast heard of me among many witnesses, the same commit thou to faithful men who shall be able to teach others also. Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahushua Mashiach. You starting to see that pattern? That is something that we have to go through. That it's not sugar and spice and everything nice. You know, no man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life. Hello. No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life. The Messiah said something like, you know, seek ye first the kingdom of Elohim, and all these things shall be added unto you. Speaking of, you know, clothes and food and the necessities of life. You know, see, but you're going to have, you know, some real strong persuasion, some real strong faith, you know, in order to not entangle yourself with the affairs of this life. Amen. It goes on to say that he may please him who has chosen him to be a soldier. So if you want to please the king, this is what it's going to take. You know, so now I want to introduce you to the enemy's weapon of mass destruction. See, because he has a weapon in which he utilizes upon us that's very, very, very powerful. You know, even as powerful as this hydrogen bomb or whatever kind of bomb it's supposed to be. You know, but the enemy, make no mistake about it, he does have a spiritual equivalent to this. He has a weapon of mass destruction, and it has destroyed massively. It's called propaganda. It's called propaganda. It's the weapon of influence. What is propaganda? It's a noun. It's information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. The second definition, dissemination of such information as a political strategy. Propaganda. Another definition of propaganda, information, ideas, or rumors deliberately spread widely to help or harm a person, group, movement, institution, nation, etc. The particular doctrines or principles propagated by an organization or movement. You know, I want you to know that the enemy has information, ideas, and rumors that they deliberately spread widely within our midst. And it's not to help us, it's to harm us. Propaganda in general, a message designed to persuade its intended audience to think and behave in a certain manner. See, this is the objective of this weapon. You know, in general, you know, propaganda speaks to a message designed to persuade its intended audience to think and behave in a certain manner. See, the enemy wants you to think and behave in a certain manner. And Yah wants you to think and behave in a certain manner that's contradictory to that. Amen?
Amen.
Now, I want to read to you a quote from this famous guy in history. You may have heard of him. His name is Adolf Hitler. You know, he was a master at propaganda. He said, by the skillful and sustained, I wish I could have underlined that. By the skillful and sustained, see, because this is how they get us, they sustain it. By the skillful and sustained use of propaganda. See, you don't know, but you've been subject to propaganda all your life. By the skillful and sustained use of propaganda, one can make a people see even heaven as hell, or an extremely wretched life as paradise. See, our enemy is real. Even though you can't see him, he's real. Even though you can't see our enemies, they are real. And the battle is being fought within your very own self. This is what propaganda does. It brainwashes. This is the result of propaganda. This is what the weapon is designed to do. They send out these messages, these rumors, these deliberate mistruths that they might brainwash you. What we have down here, what it say? From the cradle to the grave, the government and media holds minds prisoner. See, you have to know and understand, you know, I kind of like the little prison bars in the barcode, you know. But you have to understand that you are being brainwashed and that you have been brainwashed. You got to understand that, otherwise the enemy is going to have his way with you. You know, but if we're going to be true soldiers and we're going to be strong soldiers in the army of Elohim, then we must understand the weaponry of the enemy. Amen? We must understand their weapon of mass destruction is propaganda, and that it has an effect of brainwashing us even from the cradle to the grave. It brainwashes us. Well, what is brainwashing, you might say? Brainwashing, one, the process that forces the mind to abandon previous principles and beliefs. See, that's the whole problem. See, because one of the first things that you learn, or families used to learn when we still had families, hello somebody, was about Yah.
That's right.
See, but the brainwashing has been put in place that forces the mind to abandon those previous principles and beliefs. Number two, brainwashing is persuasion through several tactics. See, it's not just propaganda, it's a propaganda machine. It uses several tactics. Three, the brainwasher can make you forget everything, including your own identity. See, it's a lot of people that's running around worried about what's going to happen because they don't realize they don't forgot who they are and whose they are. Amen?
Amen.
That's right.
They get out there on the battlefield and they forget who they are and whose they are. They forget that they had a victory. They forget that they're the head and not the tail. And they begin losing the battle. Amen? Because they've been brainwashed. So again, brainwashing. A process that forces their mind to abandon previous principles and beliefs. Persuasion through several tactics. The brainwasher can make you forget everything, including your own identity. Now, this is Brainwashing 101. In her book, Brainwashing, The Science of Thought Control, Kathleen Taylor explains some of the necessary concepts and physiological properties necessary for thought control. First, you have schema, which is serious, outgoing, subdued, aggressive, thoughtful, and friendly. It's different emotions. Schema refers to different personalities, if you would. A person takes on during different situations. For example, one may be more serious in a job interview and louder at a party. The idea of schemata makes brainwashing feasible. One does not have to change their whole personality. They merely need to add one. That's all they have to do, is just add one. And that's what they're seeking to do. They're trying to add a personality to you. Emotions. Evolutionary biologists believe emotion was meant to suffice when there is not time to fully process information. The manipulation of emotion can strengthen schemata an individual wouldn't normally have. So they use your emotions. They take you on these emotional roller coasters to help with the schema, the alternate personality that they cause you to take on. Brain properties. When one is under the persistent stress, neurons in the brain are overworked and ignore these signals. When this happens, people may be more likely to abandon their typical schemata, what they're used to. The prefrontal cortex can affect schematic as well. The PFC normally allows one to think before acting. If overstimulated, the PFC can be shut down and allow for acceptance of a previously disapproved schema, the one that they inserted. Can you see the game? Can you see the game? Can you see how the enemy is getting over on us? You see, they implant this in us through their propaganda machine. They take us on an emotional roller coaster and they keep us stressed out so that it'll always kick in.
That's right.
That's how they do. It programs you to obey them, to buy from them, to conform to them, to stay with them, to eat from them, to work and to sleep with them, to watch TV, to submit, to obey, to conform, to not question authority, and to consume. You have to get this. So we've talked about the battlefield. We've talked about their weapon of mass destruction. Now we're going to get down to how to win the battle of the mind. Amen. You know, because we don't want to get in fights that we can't win, right? But, you know, through Yahushua, we have the victory. Again, definition of propaganda. Now, I want you to know and understand that propaganda is a tool. It is neither good nor evil. It's a tool. It's a weapon, but like any weapon, it can be used for good or it can be used for evil. A gun is not an evil thing. It's just a tool. It's just a machine. It can be used for good or it can be used for evil. Amen?
Amen.
Now, although the word propaganda carries with it a negative connotation, it is not evil in and of itself. You know, propaganda is simply a weapon. It's simply a tool that can be used for good or evil. I want to introduce you to Yahuwah Elohim's propaganda machine.
Hallelujah.
See, this is Yahuwah's propaganda machine.
Yes.
Even the word of Elohim. Well, are you sure, Pastor, over that? How does it work? We're getting into that. Hold on. Sit back.
Yeah.
All right. Matthew 22, 35 through 38. My next reader, please.
Then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him question, tempting him, and saying, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Yeshua said unto him, Thou shalt not love the Adonai, thy Elohim, with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment.
Hallelujah. Thank you. All right, so our Messiah, Yahushua, is telling, you know, the folks that this is the first and greatest commandment in Torah. You know, and he's actually quoting from Deuteronomy chapter 6. You know, it says in verses 4 through 6, it says, Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah Elohim is one Yahuwah. And it goes on to say, And thou shalt love Yahuwah thy Elohim with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might.
Yes.
And these words, which I command thee this day, shall be in thine heart. See, this is the first and greatest commandment, that the words of Elohim shall be in thine heart.
Yes. Yes.
See, this is why this is the greatest commandment, you know, because it's teaching us that the words, the commandments of Elohim shall be in thine heart. Now, you may notice this is a little colon here, right? Now, a colon is used to mark a major division in a sentence, to indicate that what follows is an elaboration or summation or implication of something, you know, of what precedes it. You know, so if we want to understand how to get the words of Yah, his commandments, in our hearts, we must continue reading. So the next part of the passage is verses 7 through 9, and it says, And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children. See, this is Yahuwah's propaganda machine at work. If you start when they're just kids, when they're just babies, and you begin to put the word of Elohim in them, see, this is when that machine gets started. You know, just like they put their televisions in front of you, watch out somebody, you know, and let the television watch the kids. You know, and it begins to have that propaganda machine start taking hold on them even at that early age. Okay? You know, not to mention all the other ways the propaganda machine works. We'll get into that in a little bit. You know, but thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children. So that's the first thing that you should do. That's your first responsibility. That's what get the propaganda machine going. Now, it goes on to say, And thou shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house. Okay, you're just sitting around, you chilling, right?
Yes.
You should be talking about Yah's word.
Yes. Yes.
Talking about his commandments. And when thou walkest by the way, you up walking. You up walking, you doing something. So what should you be doing while you walking? You should be talking about Yah's commandments. Amen?
Amen.
And when thou liest down, oh man, now I'm about to lay it down. Well, what should you be doing? You should be talking about Yah's commandments even before you lay it down.
Yes. Yes.
And when thou rises up, and when you get up the next day, guess what? It started all over again. See, this is Yahuwah's propaganda machine. See, it constantly bombards you. It's meant to constantly bombard you with the word of Elohim until it actually puts that skimmer in there.
Hallelujah.
That's right.
You know, and then when you become emotional and you get stressed out, you'll revert back to the word of Elohim that's been implanted. You see how that's supposed to work? See, but the enemy has taken this tool, this weapon, and have utilized it against us. You know, but they use it for harm. But Yah uses it for good. It's still the propaganda machine. You know, but like I say, it's not, the machine in and of itself is not evil or good. It's just a tool. It can be used either way. See, but this is Yahuwah's propaganda machine. This is how you're supposed to be programmed.
Yes.
Yeah, this is how you're supposed to be programmed. Now think about all the television programs you've watched. Think about all those programs that went into the computer and programmed you. Amen?
Amen.
Did they program you in alignment with what Yah wants? Or did they program you in alignment with what the powers that be, the enemy, wants? It goes on in verse 8 and says, thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thine hand. See, this speaks to you actually doing the works of Elohim. See, because your hands represents your works. So if you bind the commandments of Elohim as a sign upon your hand, they'll remind you to do his works.
That's right. That's right.
And it says, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes. Okay, what's between your eyes is your mind. You know, so, you know, when you look through those eyes, you should be looking through your mind's eye concerning the word of Elohim that applies to the situation or circumstance that you're dealing with at that time.
Yes, yes, yes.
And it says, and thou shalt write them upon the post of thy house. You know, now the post of the house, if we, you know, scripture teaches us that we are the temple of Elohim, right? That we're the house of Elohim, amen?
Yes,
right? Okay, so where's our post? Our post is the ears.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we're supposed to have the word of Elohim coming in our ears all the day long.
Hallelujah.
It's supposed to even be as frontlets between our eyes, and we should write them upon the post of our house. And it says, on thy gates. This word gates also means door. And the door of the mouth is the mouth.
Yeah.
The door of the house is the mouth.
Hallelujah.
You know, and so we're to, if you can see this, if you can have spiritual eyes to see this, Yahushua's propaganda machine is set up to start teaching you even from a baby. You know, it begins to program you from a baby.
Yeah.
What? In the will and way of Elohim. And, you know, even when you begin to sit around, you're to be talking about Yah. And when you walking by the way, because you only should be walking in the way of Elohim. You shouldn't be walking in another way. Amen. You know, and when you walking in the way, you should be talking about Elohim. It should be about Elohim. And when thou lies down, it should be about Elohim. When you rise up, it should be about Elohim. It should be bound as a sign upon thine hand. You should be doing the works of Elohim. It should be as frontlets between thine eyes. You should be always meditating on his word. You know, and you should thou shalt write them upon the post of thy house. They should always be going in your ears, and it should be coming out your mouth.
Yes, yes, yes.
See, this is why, you know, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the words of our testimonies.
Hallelujah.
See, you have to get this. You know, see, this is the propaganda machine, you know, and this is how it was meant to work. See, but they done took it and they done replaced it with their own propaganda machine, and they done made it into a weapon of mass destruction. See, but this is Yahuwah's propaganda machine, and it'll do the same thing, and it'll work even starting right now if you put it to work.
Yes, yes. Hallelujah.
It still works, but you just got to use it.
That's right. That's right.
Now I have a question. Have you had your brain washed lately? You know, see, because the crux of the matter is that you are brainwashed.
Yes.
And you're always going to be brainwashed. The question is, by whom?
That's it.
Are you going to allow Yah to wash your brain, or are you going to allow the enemy to wash your brain? But trust and believe, your brain is getting washed.
Yes.
You get to choose who's going to wash it, though. I trust Yah.
Hallelujah. Yes, yes.
I trust Yah. You know, so your brain is going to be wise. Now, I remind you that the battle is for your mind. See, because the loins of the mind directs the body. You know, the loins of the mind directs the body. Now, this is what you're up against. You know, your Facebook, your text messages, the billboards as you're driving down the street. You know, charticles, Flickr photos, podcasts, personal conversations, newspapers, experts on stage at events, product placement in movies, recent books by experts, songs on MySpace or wherever, direct mail pieces, YouTube videos, radio shows, news reports on TV, persuasive emails, Twitter comments, magazine articles, all these things. This is their propaganda machine. They bombard you with daily.
Yes.
All the time, from the time that you rise up, from the time that you're a little bitty baby, they're inputting this crap into you. From the time that you rise up as you walk along the way. You know, everything that Yah said, they're doing with their propaganda machine. And you're allowing them to. You're letting them. You're giving them entrance into your mind. You're letting them on the battlefield so that they can fight against you.
Yes.
We have to take back our children. We have to take back our lands.
Yes. Yes.
Beginning with each and every one of us, we have to take back the land that we have control over. See, the battle is for your mind, people. You know, and the enemy wants your mind, and he utilizes this propaganda machine to get it. But Yah, he wants your mind too. Choose you this day whom you shall serve.
Yes.
Don't you know whomever you obey, that's who you serve? Now we must understand that the battlefield is within us. 2 Corinthians 10, 3-6 says, for though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. Yeah, we're walking in the flesh. We have fleshly bodies, but we don't war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but are mighty through Elohim to the pulling down of strongholds. Now this is how we get down. Casting down imaginations. Where are imaginations? They're in your mind. You got to know where the battlefield is. You got to know where to fight. They're within your mind, casting down imaginations. Every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of Elohim. See, the propaganda machine of the enemy is going to exalt things against the knowledge of Elohim. You know, Yah says, in the beginning I created the heavens and the earth. Man say, no, it started with a big bang. Which one you going to believe? You see what I'm saying? You have to bring down everything, every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of Elohim. Man say it's okay for gays to be married. Yah says it's not.
That's right.
Man say it's all right to have a pork chop. Yah say don't. Which one are you going to follow? Are you going to walk after the flesh, or are you going to walk after the spirit of Elohim?
Hallelujah.
You have a choice to make. I suggest you choose wisely. And it goes on to say, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Mashiach. See, we can take prisoners of war. Amen?
Yes.
Every thought we can bring into captivity to the obedience of our Messiah. See, this is how we get down on the battlefield. We cast down those imaginations, because those imaginations will become, when you start imagining something, you know, next thing you know, it's like a fiery dart. That's what I like to refer to it. It's like you know, it's a thought is kind of like a fiery dart. And if it's from the wicked one, here comes this thought, you know, and it's like a fiery dart. That fire catches on, you know, and it begins to burn, and it becomes an imagination. And then that imagination continues to burn, and you get to imagine then how you can materialize that thought. And then the next thing you know, you done formed a plot or plan. And then that plot or plan becomes sin in your life.
That's right.
See, this is why it's important that when that fiery dart, that thought comes into your mind, that you cast it down.
Yes.
That you put the fire out immediately. Act like somebody just asked you for $1 billion. That's laughable. You know, for me it is, because I don't have $1 billion. You know, so you know, So you snatch that out. You snatch that thought out. Don't let it become an imagination. And if it does, then you cast down that imagination.
Yes.
And you cast down every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of Elohim. You got many, many things that go against the knowledge of Elohim, where Yah says one thing and man say something else. And then they say, but this is science. They say this is science. This can be proven. Well, let me tell you a little something about science. As of late, science don't realize that science wasn't actually accurate.
That's right.
As of late, if you know anything about quantum physics, it's been blowing the scientists out the water because the rules that they thought was mandatory, that they thought was forever and would not change, they found that they do when it comes to quantum physics.
That's right.
They found that up may be down, down may be sideways. See, you have to understand. See, now, you know, the only conclusion that many of them can come to is that the only way that things are the way they are is except there be a creator. See, they're coming to that realization now. See, but we didn't have to go that long route. All we had to do was believe the word.
Right.
Because eventually they're going to come to the very same conclusion. Because at the end of the day, every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess. Amen? Isn't that what our word teaches us? That's what's going to happen. You know, so cast down those imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of Elohim. If it goes up against the word of Elohim, then the word should win every time.
Right.
And bring into captivity every thought to the obedience of Mashiach. And having a readiness to revenge all disobedience. We're going to stop right there for a minute. We're going to have to take a pause. Because I don't want you going out trying to revenge no disobedience without the latter part of the verse. When your obedience is fulfilled. So don't go trying to take no vengeance on disobedience until you already done fulfilled your obedience. Second witness to this is our Messiah, Matthew 7:3-5. It says, and why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of thine eye, and behold, a beam is in thine own? Thou hypocrite! First cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote of thy brother's eye. I know you want to help, but help yourself first. I know you eagerly get on the battlefield, but fight the fight within first. Here's a quote from Sun Tzu, the author of the Art of War. He says he was a famous general that's renowned for being a very great warrior. He says, if he, the enemy, is superior in strength, evade him. That's some very good advice. Now let me tell you right now, you're not strong enough. You think you're strong enough, but you're not. Don't let your flesh fool you.
Right.
You know, don't be fooled by the enemy. You are not stronger than him. Nope. You know, so you must notice first and foremost that our enemy is superior in strength. The best way to fight him is by evasion.
Yes.
If his forces are united, separate them. See, now the propaganda machine is very much united. You know, I'm gonna show you how it works. They can literally make you believe anything they want you to believe. You know, you wake up one day and you see it on the news, right? Or you see it on the 11 o'clock news at night. You watching it, you know. Then you wake up the next morning, it's on the news again. You driving to work, it's on the radio, the morning radio show. You know, you get your favorite magazine that's talked about in there. You get the newspaper, it's front page. You get at work and you get in the lunchroom, everybody talking about it. See, this is the propaganda machine. This is how they make you believe whatever they want you to believe. Don't you think? Just think it's not by accident that, you know, when something comes out, some news, quote unquote news, that it's the same news on every channel. Yeah. Why do you think that is? They can't find no good news and it's all bad because it's coming from the wicked one. See, this is the propaganda machine and it's hard at work. You know, and we need to get hard at work and using Yah's propaganda machine to overcome theirs. attack him where he is unprepared. He's unprepared for the word of Elohim. Appear where you are not expected. See, they're not expecting you to show up on that battlefield. For so long, they've been fighting the war unopposed. They've been fighting the war unopposed. They've been having their way with us. It's time for the army of Elohim to rise up in the earth. It's time for us to start taking back the land, beginning with ourselves and then going on to our loved ones. Amen. This is what it's time to do. It's time for the army of Elohim to rise up, because the kingdom of Elohim, I got news for you, is still at hand.
That's right.
To help you out, I have a warrior's prayer. For all you would-be recruits, I have a warrior's prayer. So I'm going to ask that you pray this prayer with me. Heavenly Abba, Yahuwah Elohim, we bow in worship and praise before you. We cover ourselves with the blood of Yahushua and claim the protection of his blood for our families, for our finances, our Ruach, our Nefesh, our Nadan. We surrender ourselves completely in every area of life to you. We take a stand against all the workings of the devil that would try to hinder us and our families from best serving you. We address ourselves only to the true and living Elohim and refuse any involvement of Satan, Abaddon, the false prophet in our prayer. Satan, false prophet, and Abaddon, we command you and all your demonic forces of darkness in the name of Yahushua to leave BYA, our families, our homes, our finances, our Ruach, our Nefesh, our Nadan. We declare these, therefore, that Hasatan, the false prophet, Abaddon, and their wicked spirits are subject to the name of Yahushua the Messiah. In our own lives today, we destroy and tear down all the strongholds of Satan, the false prophet, and Abaddon against our minds, and we surrender our minds to the blessed Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah Elohim. We affirm, Heavenly Father, that you have not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Therefore, we resist the spirit of fear in the name of Yahushua, the Son of the living nail. And we refuse to fear, we refuse to doubt, we refuse to worry, because we have authority over all the power of the enemy. And nothing shall by any means hurt us as long as we remain in you. We claim complete and absolute victory over the forces of darkness in the name of Yahushua. And we resist the devil and command him to loose our peace, joy, prosperity in every member of our families for the glory of Elohim. And by faith we call it done. We break and smash the strongholds that Satan, the false prophet, and Abaddon has formed against our emotions today. We give our emotions to you, Yah. We destroy the strongholds of Satan formed against our will today. We give our wills to you, Yah. And we choose to make the right decisions of faith. We break down the strongholds of Satan formed against our body this day, Father. We give our bodies to you, realizing that we are the temple of the Ruach HaKodesh. Again, we cover ourselves with the blood of our Master Yahushua, the Mashiach, this day. We surrender our lives and possessions to him. We refuse to fear, worry, or be discouraged in the name of Yahushua. We will not hate, envy, or show any type of bitterness towards our brothers, sisters, or enemies. We will love them with the love of our Elohim set abroad in our hearts by Ruach HaKodesh. Open our eyes, Father, and show us the areas of our lives that do not please you. And give us the strength, grace, and wisdom to remove any sin or weight that would prevent our close fellowship. Work in us to cleanse us from all grounds that would give the devil a foothold against us. We claim in every way the victory of the torture stake over the satanic forces in our lives. We pray in the name of our Master Yahushua the Mashiach with thanksgiving, and we welcome the ministry of the dove, that is the Ruach HaKodesh, for our lives. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach of Nazareth of Galilee, we pray. Amen. All right, all you would-be soldiers in the army of Elohim, this is our soldier's creed. I am Yahushua's soldier. I am a warrior and a member of a team. Even the many-member body of Yahushua, I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen saint. I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills. I will always maintain my prayer life, keep my spiritual sword sharpened and my faith strong. I am an expert and I am a professional. I stand ready to deploy, engage and destroy the enemies of Yahushua HaMashiach with my spiritual sword, prayer, and fasting. I am a guardian of freedom and the way of Elohim. I am Yahushua's soldier. For those of you who have went through the spiritual boot camp and you like to be enlisted in Elohim's army, there you have it. That's all I have for you.